Thanks for coming today to the Daily Digital Micro webinar for recoloring black and white photographs in Photoshop. So this is only going to be a very quick session. The more time you spend on doing recoloring, the better at it you'll get. So let's have a look at some examples here. So I've got a free-to-use black and white photograph here. And the best way to do to start a recoloring is to use the latest version of Photoshop, which does have some very good new neural filters in there, which can actually aid with the recoloring process. So I've got my image open here. I'm going to go to my filter gallery, or my filter menu rather, and use the neural filters option. Within the neural filters, you've got a beta filters option, and you will need to actually click on the little cloud icon here to download the newest filters. But one of the newest filters that's currently being looked at is Colorize. So if I click the on button and activate that filter, you'll see a little blue box will appear around the image there. And straight away, you'll notice that the Photoshop algorithms will do a fairly good job of looking at that image and adding some color to it there. It's not perfect, but it does give you a good basis for starting to recolor things. So what you can do to tweak this a little bit and make this run a little better is in the thumbnail of the original picture here, you can add focal points and then you can adjust the colors of those focal points. So for example, here, I can see looking at this guy's hands that they've not really been colored that well. They're still missing some color on there. So if I click and add a focal point just by clicking in the thumbnail here, that will open up a color picker. And I need to pick a sort of a skin tone color for this, just a general skin tone will do. Something like that will work. And that will add a little focal point to the image there. You can see it already starting to adjust the colors a little bit. And then I can increase the size of that focal point or double click again and adjust the coloring of that focal point. And that will then take effect. And what you can do, you can click and add as many focal points as you need to the picture. So I'm just going through here now, adding different colored focal points to account for the colors of this guy's clothes. It's just a bit of guesswork, really, just picking darker colors for the clothes and adjusting the focal points. And as you go through, you can go ahead and add as many focal points as you need. And it works very well then for the background as well. So for example, this wall here, I can add a focal point there, add that color to it, make it look sort of reddish, brownish. You'll see that will then color that in. I can duplicate these focal points by holding down the Alt key and then dragging them. And as you do this, you'll start to see the picture will slowly get recolored. It's not perfect, but it does give you some additional options and a good basis to start properly recoloring things. And you can then adjust the overall tone of the image by going through and adjusting the sliders as well. The more focal points that you add, the more exact, I guess, your recoloring will become. So it takes a little while to go through and get everything looking good. But once you've got the basis in place for a decent recolor, and export that as a new layer. So for example, here, I've got a very basic recoloring going on. And in the output at the bottom, there's a new layer option or duplicate layer, or you can add these colors to the current layer. But I'm going to keep this as a new layer. Click OK. And that will then dump a new layer with the color information on top of the original background layer. So in true Blue Peter fashion, here's one I made earlier. So this is an image where I was working through the original colorization and tweaking it slightly. And the way you can tweak these things is by adding a color layer over the top of everything else. So for example, here, in my layers menu, down here at the bottom, if I add a new layer and then set the color mode from normal and change that to color, I can then, if I zoom in slightly, for example, here we've got, again, parts of the hand are blending into the color of the sleeve. So again, I could pick, using the color picker, a skin tone that would approximately match or be fairly close. Again, it doesn't have to be too perfect. A lot of the black and white information in the picture itself will do the work for you. And then because this layer is set as a color layer, I can just draw on it with a paintbrush with a low opacity, so say about 20 or 30, with a nice small brush. And you can actually draw the color back in to the areas that are needing it. And this works with selections as well. So you could even select certain areas and block them off and actually add more color that way as well. So you're just working on specific bits. I could use blue then to top up the color on the clothing here and remove some of this color bleeding. So it's quite a labor-intensive process, but it can, if you put the time in, you can do some really good colorizations. As an example, there's a gentleman on who works for the Doctor Who television programs, a guy called Clayton Hickman, and he's been doing colorizing using these sort of methods. And I've got an example of that here. You can see we've got the black and white still from one of the very first episodes of Doctor Who in black and white. And on the left, we've got the colorized version, which is built up using these sort of methods. So as you can appreciate, if you put the time in, you can get some very impressive results. So I'm going to stop the recording of this little presentation now. And if you've got any further questions, I've got a little bit of time for a Q&A as well.